The Nintendo 3DS did not get off to the best start, and even though it picked up steam fast, it did not get as many Gundam games as the DS before it, or even compared to its rival, the PlayStation Vita, but it got a pretty decent lineup of 3 games with different gameplay styles. I'm gonna go pretty quickly through these first 2 games since they're not the main focus of this video. Let's start with the last of the 3 games to be released. In 2014 we got Gundam Try Age SP. If you've seen these card-based games like Dragon Ball Heroes, you might know what to expect. You select Gundams represented by cards and build your team. You have a virtual playmat where you drag the cards into position. The initial power stats of your mobile suits can be boosted by nearby allies or by successfully completing QuickTime events that pop up during combat. There's a ridiculous amount of missions to play with Gundam from all kinds of eras. This was originally an arcade game, but due to the 3DS dual screen and touchscreen setup, a lot of those card-based games were ported to this system. It's just not a genre I'm personally very interested in. The last 2 games I'm talking about both came out in 2011, the launch year of the system. SD Gundam G Generation 3D came out with a custom 3DS design in a dark red color. It reminds me of the chart-asnable GameCube they made. The SD Gundam Generation games have been around for a very long time. Most of them follow the same style of gameplay, being top-down strategy games with tile-based movement. You get a certain amount of movement per turn and each weapon has its own range. Once an attack is initiated, you get a small animation, which you can turn off if you'd rather have it be instantaneous. You play through missions and you can recruit new mobile suits on the way. Sometimes even enemy fighters will join you. This game gives you a metric shit ton of mobile suits from all over the franchise to fight with. This game also includes a lot of art and animation from the shows to add some flair to the combat. It's a decent game, but the SD Generation games don't really hold my attention for long. I do respect them though. But for this style of gameplay, I feel like I really need a more interesting story. Something like how Fire Emblem does it. But last, we got the one that really piqued my interest. Gundam The 3D Battle. I gotta say, it's a shit name. It sounds really generic, but whatever. It's developed by Studio Art Dink, which is also an interesting name. They've been making games since 1998. Many of them are based on other anime or game franchises. To start out, you make your own pilot. I named mine Natsumi. You then choose your look, whether you're a new type or not, and you can choose which operator you want. The operators will give you useful information and tell you what to do in missions. I gotta point out that I don't have a capture card for my 3DS, so I've gotta record it on the Citra emulator. It has some weird issues with the shadows of the game, so keep that in mind. That's an emulator error and nothing with the game itself. It looks fine on my actual 3DS. The tutorials are fairly extensive, showing you the controller layout and how the movements are performed before making you do them yourself. It's also optional, which is nice. I still did it just to get the hang of the controls. It also changes the mobile suit used for each tutorial mission, starting out with the more basic ones. Walking and flying on the ground made me think back to the Ace Pilot on the GameCube, which is a very good thing because I love that game. The movement is weighty, each step sounds satisfying, and hovering above the ground or dashing around feels fast. There's something about the way it feels to change direction mid-dash which I really enjoy. That shift of weight is nicely represented. Once it put me in my favorite mobile suit, the new Gundam, and let me fly around, it made me so excited. It felt so much faster than any other mobile suit I used prior. Just like the Ace Pilot, the mobile suits make a difference. Here even more so, since this game covers more than just a 1-year war, and it goes much further beyond, letting you test out all kinds of mobile suits from the main timeline. Dashing and flying around and setting out the funnels to attack my targets felt crazy satisfying. The melee combat feels good, especially dashing up and around an enemy, using your thrusters and then flying into them. I like knocking them into the air and hitting them on the way back down. I'm not a huge fan of how the camera changes after each consecutive strike. It feels a little disorienting. It's not too hard to adjust to, but I wish it didn't do it. There are also these ships you can stand on with your mobile suit by locking on them and then walking on top of them. Then you control its flight with a circle pad and you can fire its weapons or you can fire your own. You can even end up in dogfights with other mobile suit ships. Here I managed to shoot this guy off, so I jump down off of my ship and chase after him. It really feels fun and it adds a unique new flavor to combat encounters. You also get hover vehicles with guns which you can fly around and fire off big blasts, or just ram people down if you want. Also, since this game covers more than the 1-year war, we get to play as mobile suits that transform into flight modes, and they feel great to use. There are also battles in space, both on space stations and in low gravity areas, as well as just empty space. Unlike the GameCube one, you don't rotate around freely when you move the stick. Here, when you move the circle pad, you move the same way you do on the ground. Space isn't as disorienting here as it was in the GameCube game, but I do miss that feeling of having more freedom to my movement. Still, it feels nice here, and it's cool to see many low gravity stages being able to move more freely than Earth, but still having having a firm ground to plant your feet. That's really enjoyable. There are also some huge bosses in this game which I love seeing, like Big Zam over here, classic mobile suit. This game is similar to the previous Gundam game that this developer released back on the PlayStation Portable, named Gundam Battle Universe. A lot of the art and assets stem from that game, so in many ways this is like a sequel to that, or like an upgraded version. During each part of the story, you pick between one of two teams, starting off with the Earth Federation or the Principality of Sion, and you're sent on various missions across different series. After defeating an onslaught of Saku, and then a rival Ace Pilot at the end, I beat the first proper mission, and the text reads, "Congratulations, you returned alive." I don't know why, that's just really funny to me. But even better is when you lose a mission and the game says "disappointed at you." Nice, thanks dad. After each mission you get points and are able to level up various stats, which again is very similar to the GameCube game, but you can also choose to play as main characters from the show, and you can select different mobile suits. There's a few different mission types. Either you just fight all the enemies in an area, defend a vehicle or base, or destroy an enemy base. There are also times you're ordered to retreat, but you can stay and fight if you want. And other times if you fail your main objective, you gotta get out of there and complete some side objective. Some missions are segmented into multiple sections where completing a goal in one area will send you to another. I kinda wish you got a checkpoint after loading into a new area, because they sometimes expect you to take down a lot of enemies, and it makes some later missions kind of a pain. Like there's a mission where you fight people in space, destroy a fleet, go to a new area, defend a fleet, defeat a lot of enemies, and then you go to yet another area, and then you have a boss fight against Char. I really think the boss fight should be their own missions. It's really a bummer to play a kinda long mission and then get destroyed at the boss and have to replay like 6 minutes worth of combat just to get another crack at him. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this game is too hard. I think the difficulty is very fair. I just think a few checkpoints would go a long way. Also, keep in mind that you need to upgrade the abilities of whatever mobile suit you want to use. Weapons also have their own stats to upgrade, so figure out how you want to spend those points and spend them good. One thing I was a little surprised to see is that there's no double Zeta Gundam. You got the original series, Zeta, Char's Counterattack, and a bit of Unicorn as a bonus, with of course some of the mobile suits from 08th MS Team. I like this game a lot. There's plenty of mobile suits, they all feel different. Using the fin funnels is really satisfying, and it's fun to be able to make your own character and feel like you're participating as an original character in these crazy wars, fighting alongside all your favorite characters. I still prefer the Ace Pilot for the GameCube over this. It's just a slightly nicer feeling game, and it covers more stories I love, like 08th MS Team and War in the Pocket. And I love how that game lets you command other units on massive maps. The wars felt huge and there was so much going on. In this game I did feel like it was often just me and maybe one or two other allies versus a handful of enemies at a time. It made for solid combat, but it didn't give me that feeling of being a part of a huge massive battle. I can understand why they did it though. The combat feels focused and I was never disoriented, which sometimes was an issue in the GameCube game. It's a solid title and I'm surprised more people don't talk about it. Not that it's mind-blowing or anything, but I think it's well worth a try. It's good, and if you like Gundam, especially the main timeline, it is worth your time. That's all I got for you this time. Thanks for watching.